Welcome into the Tailgate Talk SEC live bracket reveal and breakdown. I'm going to go through every region right now, pick all of the games. And let me be very upfront with this. If you're going to sit here and watch this, I'm going to be doing a lot of thinking in real time. So it might not be the quickest thing you've ever seen, but I hope it is going to be a fun thing. So we're going to start off just with this East region where Duke is. I can get to it. There we are. So Duke, obviously I have them winning that first game against their 16 seed Siena. And then when it comes to Ohio State and TCU, I think that my gut is to go with TCU. Ohio State. This is what I'm saying, dude. This is going to be a lot of thinking out loud, but I like what Bruce Thornton can do, and I think that Ohio State is kind of making that run, getting in. I like the Buckeyes to advance past TCU. Then moving on to St. John's versus Northern Iowa. I just think that, St. John's, they're just a better team. I'm going to take St. John's there to beat UNI. Kansas versus California Baptist. There are obviously a bunch of questions with Kansas. Mainly it's about Darren Pierce. Is he really going to play? How much are they going to have him? I don't think that gets them in this first one. Give me Kansas to beat Cal Baptist. Then Louisville versus South Florida is that next one. This is the one where I'm starting to get a little fun. I'm going to take USF to beat Louisville. And Louisville will have Michael Brown, coming back. He should be healthy. But it's March. It's March. I like what USF is doing a lot. So give me the Bulls over the Cardinals. Then we get Michigan State taking on North Dakota State. This one's pretty cut and dry. Give me Sparty. Give me Izzo to move on to, when I type it correctly, the second round of the NCAA tournament. Then getting down to this bottom chunk, UCLA versus UCF. This is a bit of a toss for me. This one should be a really, really good game, but I'm going to go with the team that I think is playing just a little bit better right now. Even though they are both playing pretty well, I'm going to go with UCLA. And then at the very bottom here, we have UConn. We have Furman. I don't love UConn, but I like them enough to beat Furman in the first round. So give me UConn to move on. Then going on to the round of 32 now. This is where I might lose some people because Duke versus Ohio State. I'm going to take Ohio State to beat Duke. And here's why. Look, the loss of Caleb Foster, it hurts. You lose your point guard. And I think you saw that happen, especially in Duke's game against FSU. And it's hard to learn how to play without your point guard, without the primary ball handler. Look, Caden Boozer played great, but I think back to when Texas Tech first lost JT Toppin. Everyone stepped up. It was the adrenaline rush. It was great. It was your time. I think that's kind of what that was. I'm going to be the idiot who takes Duke to lose in the first weekend. Give me Ohio State over Duke in the round of 32. That's going to be a really bad pick. I can already feel it, but whatever. Let's move on. Then we get St. John's versus Kansas. This game's going to be great. If that's what we get. We get Rick Pitino versus Bill Self, maybe the best coaching matchup of the tournament. And I'm going to trust Bill Self. I'm going to go with Kansas. Sam, that's a really good point. Ohio State has not won the ACC before. Maybe I'll undo that. But I'm going to take Kansas over St. John's in the round of 32 to advance to the Sweet 16. So we get Ohio State and Kansas in the Sweet 16. Then USF going up against Michigan State. USF could be a fun team to pick for a Cinderella one. I'm not going to do it because I think that Izzo, Michigan State, Jeremy Fears could probably punch three other guys, knock them out of the game. So I'll go with Sparty to move on to the Sweet 16. Then UCLA and UConn. This is a spot where I could maybe pick UConn to lose if I don't like them very much. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to take UConn to move on. I'll take them over UCLA and Mick Cronin. So give me UConn to get to the Sweet 16. Then we get Ohio State and Kansas up here in the top. I'm going to take Kansas in this one to move on to the Elite Eight. Bill Self gets back to this part. And then Michigan State versus UConn. This is where I'll take UConn to lose. I will take Michigan State over UConn. Michigan State gets to the Elite Eight. And then Michigan State versus Kansas, Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. Give me Sparty. I think that Sparty gets to the Final Four. Michigan State and Tom Izzo will make it to Indianapolis. Now, if I'm wrong about this, it's obviously going to be Duke. I don't really know why I'm doing it, but I'm going to do it. I just think that losing Caleb Foster, it's really going to hurt. And look, is Cam Boozer going to be the best player on that court by a million miles? Sure, I think they still will be. I think that Ohio State, though, with guard play taking over without Foster, with Caden Boozer, you get some tape on what he wants to do as the number one guy. I think it could get him. So let's move on now down to the South region where Florida is. I obviously have Florida taking down Lehigh or Prairie View. I'm not too worried about whichever school. moves on there. Then you get Clemson versus Iowa. I'm going to take Iowa in that one because Bennett Sturts will be the best guard on the floor. You know, Clemson's a solid team. You have Dylan Hunter. He's not always consistent. He sometimes disappears when they need him. So I'll go Iowa there over Clemson. Then you get Vanderbilt and McNeese. I will take Vanderbilt to move on. I mean, they're obviously playing they're on fire right now. They lost that game against Arkansas in the SEC title game, but that doesn't bother me at all in terms of what I think this team can do. So I will take Vandy over the 12 seed McNeese, and then Nebraska versus Troy. I've been wanting to pick against Nebraska for a really long time, because I don't think they're very good. I think they're a little bit fake. Troy, kind of wanted a different 13 seed there, but I think I'm still going to do it. I'm going to take Troy over Nebraska as a 13 over 4 matchup. For the record, by the way, this would be the funniest thing of all time if Nebraska continues to have never won an NCAA tournament game because they lost as a 4 seed to Troy in the first round. So we'll see what happens. North Carolina versus VCU here. North Carolina's ceiling is obviously way, way smaller because of without missing Caleb Wilson. VCU is rolling. They were on the bubble. They just won their conference today. I'll take VCU to take down North Carolina in the first round. Illinois and Penn. This is my favorite pick of the tournament. Penn beats Illinois. Illinois has that fatal flaw of defense. Keaton Walker, that whole offense, it's really, really good. Their defense is not. And watching Penn, there's something about them that Ivy League final. I like it a lot. March is all about your gut, doing things that don't make any sense because it's fun. So give me Penn over Illinois. We get VCU and Penn in the second round because that's what basketball is all about. Moving on to St. Mary's here versus Texas A&M. A&M, do I think they're very good? I don't. Do I think that they have a bunch of good basketball players? No. Do I think they're going to beat St. Mary's? I do. I think that they're just going to be the much more physical team. It's going to be a physical brand of basketball that St. Mary's just hasn't seen yet. So give me the Aggies there over St. Mary's. And then Houston versus Idaho. I'm not even going to dance around this like I'm considering anything. This is a Houston spot for sure. So then back up the top here. Florida versus Iowa. I will take the Gators to move on. Now, obviously, that could be a little bit sketchy because of what I said about Bennett Sturts probably being the best guard on the floor in that game. I think the Gators, that loss against Vanderbilt, it was a punch to the face. And I think they needed because they hadn't even been threatened in months. Well over 50 days since they've been threatened in a basketball game. So that loss, you could look at it as, oh, they got exposed, they got broken. That's not how I'm looking at it. I think the Gators are going to come into this bracket fired up. Speaking of Vanderbilt, they then play Troy, and I'll take Vandy to advance past Troy. You have Duke Miles, you have Tyler Tanner, obviously, as those two guards, and they're big guys down low, even though they're not that big. What that turns into then is extended shooting, and that's been very good for Vandy, so I'll take Vandy to advance past Troy. Then you get VCU and Penn. Something about this Penn team, man. I like them. I like what I saw a lot. So give me Penn to go to the Sweet 16, and then Texas A&M versus Houston. A&M can definitely jump some people they haven't played a lot with their physicality. The one team that they couldn't do that to is going to be Houston. So I'll take Houston over the Aggies. Florida versus Vandy, round 3. I mean, the bracket guys knew what they were doing with this one. This game, as round 3 in the Sweet 16, is going to get a ton of eyes. It's going to get a ton of buzz. And I'm going to take the Gators. Vandy is not better than Florida. They were better than Florida on Saturday. But Vandy's not a better team than Florida. So in round 3, I think the Gators come back out. They'll know exactly what Vandy was able to do in that first matchup. I'll take the Gators to get the rubber match against the Doors in the Sweet 16. And then Penn versus Houston. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be Houston. Houston's going to embarrass Penn at that point. It'll be the Magic Room will be over for the Quakers, which is one of the best mascot names in the sport, in my opinion. So I'll take Houston to go to the to the Elite Eight versus Florida. And then we get Florida versus Houston again late in the bracket. It was in the national championship last year in San Antonio. This year, it would be in the Elite Eight right there in Houston. And I'm going to take the Gators to get it done again against Kelvin Sampson. Florida goes back to the Final Four. Let's move up to the Midwest region now. This is Michigan's. I obviously have Michigan, believe it or not. I think they'll take down either UMBC or Howard. I'm not really concerned about which one they get. And then Georgia versus St. Louis. This game, first off, is going to have 1,000 million bajillion points scored in it. And I think that Georgia will have a few more of that, whatever number I just said. So give me the Bulldogs over St. Louis. I'm tempted to not take Mike White to do anything good in the postseason. but St. Louis hasn't really been playing their best ball as of late. Neither is Georgia, I guess, but I'm going to go with Georgia over St. Louis there. Texas Tech versus Akron. This was a game that I thought about going with an upset. I'm not going to. I will take Texas Tech to beat Akron in the first round, but I'm not thrilled about the idea of taking the Red Raiders very deep in the tournament. We'll get to that very shortly. You get Alabama versus Hofstra. I don't think there's anything funny going on here. I'll just take Alabama to take them down. Tennessee versus either SMU or Miami. I don't care which one. I'm going to take Tennessee. For the Miami of Ohio thing, so obviously they get in here, they're going to Dayton. They'll be in the first. They'll be in the first four. I was kind of hoping that they just got, they didn't have to go to Dayton. They just be outright in the bracket because it'd be easier for me to pick against them and get that spot right. I Miami of Ohio losing to SMU for what that's worth in the first four, and then Tennessee will just out physical SMU. Then moving down here to Virginia versus Wright State. Cavaliers have been prone to an upset. They really have been, but I will take Virginia in this one to get it done once I do the right thing with my bracket. But this Virginia team, I'm not worried about them totally falling off a cliff in this one. Obviously, you never really are until it becomes, until it happens. But I'm going to take the Cavaliers to take down Wright State in the first round and move on to play Tennessee. Then Kentucky versus Santa Clara. That's a Kentucky's been so prone to slow starts, right? They've been so prone to, coming out and not playing well in the beginning, putting themselves too far back to them where they can't come back against good teams. Santa Clara is not a team you want to do that against. I'm going to take Santa Clara to take down Kentucky in the first round and eliminate the Wildcats. And then you'll hear even more conversations about Mark Pope's seat. And then Iowa State versus Tennessee State. I'm not overly worried about this one. Give me Iowa State. Give me Holzenberger's tiny shirts to move on to the round of 32 over Tennessee State. The Michigan versus Georgia. Georgia will be feeling great. They'll be feeling good. And then Michigan's going to decapitate them. So I'll go with Georgia there. Texas Tech versus Alabama. This is a tricky. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. That was spoiling my Final Four. That was a disaster. Texas Tech versus Alabama. I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide. I just think that without Toppin, Texas Tech was already kind of challenged with their depth. So I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide there over Texas Tech. Tennessee versus Virginia. I think Virginia is good. I think Tennessee is stronger. Give me the Vols to kind of just out physical their way to a win over the Hoos. And then Santa Clara versus Iowa State. Nothing talking about this one. Give me Iowa State. Michigan versus Alabama. This is the ultimate, Bama wants to sit back, fire off threes. Michigan, especially without LJ Kason, they always want to beat you up. And I think that Michigan's beat the hell out of you strategy is going to prevail. So give me Michigan over Alabama. And then Tennessee versus Iowa State. This is going to be a really, really good game. I'm going to go with Iowa State, though. I think Holzenberger is able to get his guys past the Vols. They'll be able to shut down Gillespie, take care of Ament. It'll be Michigan versus Iowa State, a 1 versus 2 here in the Elite Eight. And I will take Michigan to make it to the Final Four. That's not what I meant to do. Thank you. There we go. I will take Michigan to make it to the Final Four and get out of the Midwest region. Then moving on to our last of the 4 regions, it's Arizona's up here in the West. Arizona against LIU. I wanted to chant Fins up and actually pick them so bad, but I can't do it. Arizona's going to throttle them, but forever Fins up. Forever Fins up. And Villanova taking on, I messed this up. Villanova taking on Utah State. This is a game that not a lot of people know much about these teams, but the one thing that I do know is that I don't like the Big East at all this year. I just don't. So for that reason, because Villanova is kind of middle of the pack in a conference I don't really respect, I'm going to take Utah State to take down Villanova in the first round. Then we get Wisconsin versus High Point. If you want points, you watch this game. I'm going to say that Wisconsin is able to kind of ride this hot streak that they're on for just one more game. A little teaser for you there. But I think that Wisconsin beats it'll be a close game against High Point, but I will take Wisconsin over High Point. Arkansas versus Hawaii. Arkansas is playing really good ball right now. We saw they just won the SEC tournament, and Hawaii's got to fly really far to somewhere. Portland. Oh, never mind. Arkansas actually has the travel disadvantage in that game, I think, but it won't really matter. I'll take Arkansas over Hawaii, even if that game was being played on the main island. BYU versus NC State or Texas. Now, this is really interesting because Texas is a bubble team that I've been pretty high on for a while, and NC State, I wasn't sure they were going to get in, but I like Will Wade in the tournament. So I've been a fan of this Longhorns team for a while. I'm going to take NC State to advance it through the first 4, and I'm going to take NC State to beat BYU as well. Will Wade gets his guys back to the round of 32. Gonzaga versus Kennesaw State. I am not a Gonzaga guy, but I'm definitely not a Kennesaw State guy. So I'll go with Gonzaga over Kennesaw State. Miami, Florida versus Missouri. This is going to be a really good one. Obviously, Jay Lucas has the Hurricanes playing really good basketball. In Missouri, they kind of stumbled through the end of the year. They lost that first game in Nashville against Kentucky, but this is a good team that was on the right side of the bubble for a reason. I'll take the Tigers to get their legs back under them and take down Miami, Florida. And then Purdue versus Queens. I was low on Purdue for most of the year, especially, they started off number one overall. I didn't like that very much. Then they sort of stumbled into the postseason. They just won the Big Ten. They're really hot right now. Obviously, they won't lose to Queens regardless, but give me Purdue to move on. Going to the second round now, Arizona versus Utah State. This is just don't overthink it. Arizona will move on. Wisconsin versus Arkansas. Another game where we might see 1,000 billion points, but I will take Arkansas to move on over Wisconsin. I just trust them a little bit more. I think Wisconsin might be a little too streak reliant. I'll take Arkansas to be just the better team there. NC State versus Gonzaga. Let me be very clear about something right now. I am really thinking about doing NC State. I'm not gonna. I'll say, yeah, I am. Give me NC State over Gonzaga to make it to the Sweet 16. Will Wade, I like him as a coach a lot. And, I think the Wolfpack maybe got their bad basketball out, in February and early March. So give me NC State over Gonzaga there. And then Missouri versus Purdue. What happens when a train meets a tiger? The tiger dies. Give me Purdue over Missouri there. Arizona versus Arkansas. This seems like one of those games where Arkansas playing that 7-man rotation, they're in it for a really, really long time. But at the end, I think Arizona just leans on them. Give me Zona to move on to the Elite Eight. And then NC State versus Purdue. This is where I'll take Purdue here to end the NC State run. The Boilermakers advance. So this is another 1 versus 2 in the Elite Eight. And I'll take Arizona to go to the Final Four. Purdue, I think, is obviously coming on. They're better than they've looked in the past few weeks. But I don't think they're good enough to take down Arizona here. So give me Arizona to go to the Final Four. And then even though I accidentally clicked on it and spoiled it, this is my Final Four. I've got Michigan State, Arizona, Florida, and Michigan. Got a comment here. Arizona and Arkansas scares me. I have Arizona. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking the exact same thing. That game should be ultra competitive. I mean, I think you have Acuff will be the best guard on the floor by a lot. I mean, I might even argue that Arkansas, at least scoring wise, has the best 2, maybe even 3 guards in that game over Arizona. But the Wildcats, just how much they will bang Arkansas down low and just physically beat them up, combined with Arkansas's minimal, depth, I think Wildcats just lean on them and pull away at the end there. So, Final Four here. Michigan State, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida. Starting off with Michigan State and Florida. How I'm looking at this. The disadvantage for Florida throughout the tournament against good teams will likely come with their guards are just not as good of scorers as the other team's guards. Jeremy Fears is a good scorer, but he's not, take over time. I'm going to score 35 on you. He can do it, but that's not really how he profiles as a player. So then I go to down low, Michigan State, Izzo, how they're, how those big guys start, how those big guys play. They're really good. I think that Florida's are just a little bit different. So I'm going to take the Gators over Michigan State to advance to the championship game. And then Arizona and Michigan. I'm worried about Michigan not having LJ Case on. I think they kind of showed a bit today, not having a 3-point game when they lost that game to Purdue. But neither does Arizona. Arizona doesn't make threes, not necessarily because they can't. I mean, it's not like they can exactly, but they don't not shoot threes and it hurts them. They just win all these games in the paint. Michigan not being able to shoot the 3, that hurt them today. So for that reason, I think Arizona is more used to playing without a 3-point threat. That's the wrong thing I just hit. But I would take Arizona to beat Michigan. And then we get a Florida versus Arizona game in the national championship. The season, if I'm right, which I'm probably not, will start and end with Florida versus Arizona. That seems pretty cool to me. And I was hoping we were going to get a rematch once Florida got back into those talks of maybe being a 2 seed. Could they be in the same region? Or now they're a 1 seed. Can they get to the Final Four together? Florida versus Arizona in the title game would be awesome. And going back to that first game of the season, Arizona, they've obviously also gotten better, but I think that the way that Florida's gotten better is more impressive because Florida's guards are no longer liabilities. I know they were in Nashville. The entire team didn't play very good. I think they were just kind of sleepwalking into that. They had to get slapped back a week. But Florida's guards, the shooting, month by month, is getting way better. Their bigs are obvious. We know who they are. Alex Condon being aggressive and having an FU mentality, he is so much better when he plays like that. And that's how he's playing. But Arizona, obviously, you look at their bigs. You have guys like Koa Pete. I mean, you have that entire front. I'm so flustered thinking about this game right now. This would be an unbelievable game. I think the X factor in a Florida versus Arizona title game would be, does Braden Burries make 3 threes? I think that would kind of be that cutoff. But Florida has been so good at limiting elite guards. They stopped Darius Acuff. They stopped Alabama's guards. They faltered against Vandy this week. I get it. I'm going to take Florida to go back to back. I think that they will be able to win the rematch over Arizona. So give me the Gators to go back to back. But that game against Arizona would be unbelievable. Comment about Arizona having 8 stars and seniors. This team is so good. This Zona team is so good. But my question then, with it being Arizona versus Florida as a rematch, is Arizona that much better than Florida where they would beat them twice? Even though it's kind of 2 iterations of each team because it was opening night to now final night, I don't know if I see. I mean, if Florida had won the opener, I'd be saying a similar thing: are the Gators really good enough to beat Arizona twice in the same season? If this is how the Natty goes, that'd be unbelievable getting that rematch. But I would take the Gators over Arizona to then go back to back and win their second national championship. So just to go through what was notable about what I have. First off, it's what might make me the dumbest guy in the world, and that was Ohio State over Duke. I'm banking on guard play being the factor there, not having Caleb Foster hurting Duke. We'll see how that goes. And so then Michigan State obviously taking that Final Four bid. Going on down to the South, the Florida versus Houston thing, the game being in Houston, it would scare me. But like I said, they beat Houston in San Antonio in the title game just last year. So I'm not overly worried about that. I hope that this Penn run comes true because that team is so fun to watch. I do hope that we do get Penn in the Sweet 16 because that'd be just amazing. Down to the Midwest, Michigan's region. This is a pretty chalky region by me. I mean, the only upset there really is Tennessee over Virginia, but that's just a 6 seed making the Sweet 16. No one's really shocked there. So I've got a pretty chalky Midwest, and then going up to the West regional. Arkansas and Wisconsin is kind of a coin flip for me, but I do believe that Arkansas just has the more reliable, more talented scorers. I do think NC State has a shot to make a good run. And could Missouri beat Purdue? Yeah, but I do believe that Purdue, it's not a situation where they peaked in the Big Ten tournament and now they're going to go downhill. I think that they're peaking right now, and you're going to see that same iteration of Purdue keep playing through the NCAA tournament. So I'll take Purdue still to get their get the game against Arizona and drop. And then I've got with Michigan State, Florida, Michigan, Arizona. First off, if this was the Final Four, it would be hard for me to not cheer for a Michigan State Michigan matchup in the title because of how awesome that would be. But I got Florida over the Sparty, Arizona over Michigan, and Florida taking down the Wildcats in the championship game. So that is my full bracket walkthrough. That's what I've got. And normally I change these up about a million times before games tip off. I'll stick with this one because now I'm putting it out in the world, and I don't want to cheat my bracket. So that's how I've got my bracket winding up. If you want bracket coverage for just about every single game, just play by play the entire days of the tournament, subscribe to me here on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. I'll be doing all of it. I'll be all over it. Thank you guys so much for everybody who did tune into this live stream for watching. I appreciate you